Not until like the very end when I went to go turn it off and I realized we didn't record. So I got
I'll
like the
tell
last
Rich.
like 20 minutes of our tasting. Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone here. Cheers. Beam, super excited for this one. Um, Beam actually kind of evolved from what I was expecting it to be. Uh, to This was going to be a Booker's only tasting initially. That's what my plan was. And I decided to change this up just a little bit because I had Knob Creek 21 and that was so delicious that I loved it. And I was like, but I've loved a lot of Knob Creek, so I had to bring that in. And then I haven't had a whole lot of Bakers, so I decided to add in a Bakers, and it just kind of evolved. So we're tasting a little bit of everything from Beam, and we've got, even got, if you got the, we have one independent bottling of Beam here, so we can try that if you got that in the add-on. So I'm excited to do this. I'm going to introduce Edwin Cruz now. Let you introduce yourself, and then we'll get started. We're going to start off with the Beam Pin bottle. So for those of you here or at home, feel free to pour this, and we'll get going. I love this bottle. I love the look of this bottle. I'm going to keep this thing.
Have you bowled with them yet?
Not yet. This is going to be an infinity bottle of some sort at some point. So cheers, Adam. Why don't you introduce yourself, sir?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Nando, for having me in. Hi, everyone. It's good to be spending this Friday afternoon, early evening with y'all. I think I see some faces that I recognize from like, who's, oh, yeah. Uh, yep. Um, my name is Edwin Cruz. I'm the American Whiskey Ambassador for Beam Distilling for the West Coast. So myself, along with two others, we essentially divide the U.S. in three-way. I cover all the Western states. I travel around to do tastings, educations, throw the occasional party, and drink a lot of whiskey on the way. And when Nando I was connected with Nando, I was he told me how much of a fan he was at Beam. I immediately wanted to jump on board, and I'm excited to share information about the distillery, talk about whatever it is that y'all want to talk about, and taste through some incredibly diverse whiskeys here that I'm excited to kind of dive into. I typically just chat, so feel free to interrupt me if I'm going too fast. If any questions pop up based on anything that I'm speaking on, I like to kind of keep it a fluid conversation. I know it's easier to have that more fluid conversation when I'm in person. I But yeah, don't feel free to interrupt me. And at some points, I'll probably just stop and say, "Hey, is everything clear? Does anyone have any questions before moving on?" I also don't typically have presentations put together, but I just happened to just make this one for another big whiskey training that I did online. So y'all, we get essentially get a 2.0 revision of this presentation. So I won't really stick to the presentation. We have a lot of whiskeys to try, and we've got 2 hours, and that leaves like a little bit over. That gives us a little bit of time to talk a little history, talk a little deep dive into the actual bottles and the philosophy behind each of our brands, and enjoy each other's company. So
Yeah,
yeah.
Edwin, I'm gonna try and connect the speaker um just because there's so many people here. Normally I have like three or four and they're right around the table. So
Right, yeah.
I'm gonna try and connect the speaker real quick, but I'm gonna put the lineup in the chat first, and then that way everyone has it. But we're starting with the bean pin, like I said. So
Yeah. I'll hold on for a couple seconds then while if you want to connect that speaker.
yeah, please appreciate that. Boom. Okay, lineups in the chat. I am the least efficient IT person ever. So yeah. What do I need? Bluetooth?
Bluetooth. Yeah. The speaker might need to be in pairing mode if it hasn't been paired before, has been paired before.
Nope.
But it needs to be in pairing mode. We have to look at it.
Oh, that I know how to do.
Okay, you do? All right.
There's a Bluetooth sign on that.
Yeah. There you go. Sounds like it's in pairing mode.
All to the voice. Bluetooth connecting.
Now you should be able to find it.
Oh, come on.
Is it a Monster Achieve 300 yearlings?
It's Harmon.
Facebook, so
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
see
go
it.
let Tia.
I don't see it. Should be showing up on mine if it is.
Oh, is it because I'm connected to it?
Oh, it might have already connected to your. Yeah.
Yep, that's what it looks like.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm disconnected. All right, let's review this one more time. Add Bluetooth. Bluetooth. Here we go. Let's see if it works. Hey.
Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
It should automatically switch, or you may need to.
Yeah.
No, it's on Windows. Yeah.
So audio's connected.
What
What says connected music?
No, what's the device?
Got to specify the audio.
HK.
In the.
That one? Okay, go over here.
Here.
No, the volume thing here. That, right there. All right. So have Edwin talk.
Edwin, you speak real quick?
Yep.
Okay.
Sure, sure.
More.
Test 1, 2.
Okay, so it's not there yet.
I be now.
Yep. Audio. And then click the select the.
There we go.
Yeah. Now.
Now?
Now, testing 1, 2.
The volume up on that.
Yeah, I think you did.
Edwin, will you do one more test real quick?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Hi, I'm Edwin.
Oh, no.
Mr. T doesn't approve. That's weird. Why is there no audio coming out?
Oh, no.
Pass me that speaker.
It's working.
Hey, Mr. T.
One thing you have to set up
Da,
is.
da, 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 da. Whiskey, whiskey, whiskey. Bourbon.
Well, I don't know what to say.
Oh wait, is that muted or is that unclick that?
Look what? This is the output volume, so I have it all
Test,
the way
test.
up.
Wait,
1,
I
2.
hear it on here now. Edwin, can you talk?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone.
Why the fuck is there? Click on the audio here.
You can always join Zoom on your phone if it's already there.
Yeah,
Audio.
that's true. Select a speaker, select a microphone.
Try same as system.
Oh, you might have to select it on the Zoom itself.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's still.
God damn it.
All right, one more time, Edwin.
All right. Hello. Yes. Testing 1, 2. No, 3, 4, 5, 6.
All right. Well,
We'll just go back to it. We'll have to figure it out.
I can do, oh shit, I can't join from here now because I'm connected here. Oh, Edwin, you're host, right? You're co-host?
I'm co-host. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, now we fucking totally screwed this up. Okay, sorry. Let me,
We'll try one more thing.
No, you're all good. I want everybody to be able to hear. So
yeah. Although,
Why is the speaker not working?
one more thing, sorry. One more thing, HP. Connect. If I go to my Zoom. Sorry, I should have figured this one out before. Apologize.
You did?
usually it's me who gets in trouble with the tech. I have so much tech, and half the time I'm trying to connect like 3 different things at the same time, and so I understand.
Yeah.
Oh, testing 1, 2.
You can't fucking hear
Anything? Hello, hello.
me. Yes. Oh, that's not gonna work.
Didn't we have the same song last time?
No, hold on.
Yeah, you just need to disconnect from
mute your.
Okay, Edwin, can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
Oh,
Okay, there we go. That'll work. We're good. All right. Sorry.
We did it.
Let's do it.
All right. 231 years later. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good introduction.
You're telling me. I got some extra gray hairs.
great.
I'll finish reintroducing myself. I'm Edwin Cruz, American Whiskey Ambassador for the Beam Distilling. I've been with Beam for about a little bit over 8 years now. I started off just here locally, and now representing the full portfolio for everything that Suntory Global Spirits makes. And then for the last 4 years, 4.5 years now, I have exclusively been the American Whiskey Ambassador for Beam. So really getting a deep down dive into what it's like, what distillery life is like. I spent about 2 to 3 months a year in Kentucky, like really diving into like all aspects of production, speaking to distillers, speaking to our scientists out there, speaking to barrel housing managers, to people on the bottling line, just to see what's working and what's not, just to really like feel immersed. So if there are any little random facts that y'all want to know, also I'll make sure to pepper some of those in as we kind of go through our conversation. But I always like to set a base for our conversations. So um, rather than just stare at my ugly mug, I wanted to also give a little context to what we're doing and why we do the things that we do at Beam Distilling, which is really that we at our very core, we are a company that have not only stood for 8 generations and 231 years of distillation history, but we have uh, this drive for innovation, for pushing ourselves forward, whether it's through the first 4 generations at the Old Tub Distillery, to the current 3.5, 4 generations at Beam Distilling. We have really tried to honor the spirits of previous generations while also looking ahead at what's to come in the bourbon drinking world. And so you'll see a little bit of that as we kind of drink and as we kind of like taste some of these things. I always like to take the first 5 or 10 minutes to really go over a little bit of history to set the fundamentals for who we are. And so we'll go there. And then once we're done with a little history, we'll dive into our very first whiskey, and then we'll jump into like the rest of it. Um, so really the story of of the James Beam Distilling Company in its current iteration doesn't really start with Jim Beam. It goes back 3 generations previous to him with Jacob Johannes Beam, who was a farmer who moved his family from Maryland into Pennsylvania, and then from Pennsylvania into Kentucky, as really as a way in with no real desire, no real like the idea of distillation wasn't really present as something that he wanted to do for a living. It was more farm work, and it was more of a way to get rid of excess grain. And of course, like at that time, the corn was subsidized by the federal government, growing of grain. So he had a land plot that he inherited from his uncle in Kentucky, and that's how he essentially established himself in what is now maybe about 10 miles away from what is now modern day Bardstown, Kentucky, off a little road that's currently called Happy Hollows Road. And you'll see Happy Hollows Road also pops up at our distillery if you've ever had a chance to visit. And so it wasn't until 1795, after really establishing themselves, essentially spending the first part of 10 years really establishing himself in Kentucky, when he sold his first barrel of whiskey. And it wasn't whiskey in the way that we kind of know it. It was just very young whiskey, closer to, like our modern day, like moonshine into like a 2-year whiskey. But it was really his sons that established the business. They saw the potential that Jacob's distillation methodology, that there was possibilities in it. There was business opportunities for growth in that business. And so David Beam, his son, essentially now was not only the second generation of distillation history, but he was also a very adept distiller. And he essentially started with a family business when he was 18 years old. And he saw the potential to grow dad's business into the empire that it is now. So at 18 years old, he started distilling, and he planted the seed for the growth that Beam would see over the next couple of generations. And so David Beam, along with David M. Beam, essentially established our very first working distillery right outside of Nelson County, Kentucky, just a few yards from the railroad lines. And that distillery became known as the Old Tub Distillery. And it was really important to be on those railroad lights because you can essentially deliver from north to south, creating a trade path. And the idea here is that at this point we stopped being a small farm distillation operation into growing into the very first established big distillery production that we originally had, and a lot of the original things kind of come from this distillery and this piece of history and distillation, from our classic mash bill to the style of to starting to form those multi-generational family relationships with farmers, to our water sources and how important those are to us as well. So after the first three generations, of course, we know that Jim Beam, now a fourth generation distiller, growing up in the distillery, had to deal with a little something called prohibition. And prohibition, of course, um, really put a damper in the family business. So at this point, the Beams didn't have one of the very coveted, very few medicinal alcohol licenses. So they decided to sell the business and they decided to relocate to Florida. And once they were in Florida, they bought a couple of orchard farms, or they wanted to grow oranges. And of course, being distillers at this point, Jim Beam essentially failed at that business and decided to move back to Kentucky at this point. And it was during this period of trying to reestablish and reinvent himself that he stumbled upon a defunct distillery in Claremont, Kentucky called the Murphy and Barber Distilling Company. And the Murphy and Barber Distilling Company was not operational. Of course, everything had been torn down. And he actually bought that plot of land because it sat on a limestone quarry. And he was essentially going to like harvest limestone or cut limestone and sell it and essentially use that as his way of creating income during Prohibition. But with the whispers of Prohibition ending in the early 30s, he, along with his family and along with his son, were able to rebuild our distillery immediately following Prohibition in 120 days. So part of it was coincidence, but in my opinion, I also think there was some foresight in thinking about where the future of whiskey was going to be. And I'm sure they were locked in with people who knew that Prohibition was going to be repealed. I'm sure there were whispers of it in the 30s. And so we were able to rebuild our distillery in 1933, opened in 1935. And instead of calling it the Old Tub Distillery or naming it after his great grandfather, he ended up calling it after himself. He called it the James P. Beam Distilling Company instead of the Old Tub Distillery. He was 70 years old. He was 70 years old at this point, so he could do whatever he wanted. He lived through Prohibition. He was able to put up with all of it. So it was really here at that distillery and we can actually taste our first whiskey with this. This is actually a great segue into establish. He did two big things at the distillery. He established our current mash bill, and he harvested our current yeast strain, which is very different from the original yeast strain that was used for the first three generations of distillation at the Old Tub Distillery. So if you ever get a chance to visit the Beams in Kentucky and visit their home, which they do like to invite people over all the time, Fred and Freddie will point out, well, Freddie lives in the old Beam house. He'll point out where on that windowsill in the kitchen that first bit of yeast strain was harvested, and where his great grandfather essentially said, "Hey, this is going to be our yeast strain that we're going to use for our new mash bill that we're going to use at the distillery." And I know we don't really talk about historically about mash bills, but the mash bill that we settled on for most of the products that we created was this 7839 mash bill, this really corn heavy, rich mash bill that paired really well with the style of whiskey that was being produced, that was being fermented out of our yeast strain. And so when I like to just think about whiskeys, I like to think about, or whiskeys that come from Beam, I always like to point out the fact that yeast has such an important part in our flavor profile. It creates, for some reason, this really unique nutty quality that I like to call peanuts, but Freddie hates me to say that it tastes like peanuts. He likes to describe it as cashews. But I didn't grow up eating cashews. I grew up going to Dodger Stadium, and
Nutty, we'll go with
and
nutty,
eating
right?
right, yeah, exactly. I grew up going to Dodger Stadium and eating ballpark peanuts, so that's what it reminds me of. But Freddie really, really dislikes the fact when I say that. So, but that's kind of our joke that we have together now. I'm like, peanuts, right? And he's like, get out of here, Edwin.
But that answers one of the big questions about Beam because you have like that nutty profile is so Beam, like you can taste it like immediately, normally, right? I feel like
Normally, yes.
it's one of those things that I love about Beam because I happen to love either you kind of love it or hate it. I feel like, but I love it. And then question on
Yeah,
the yeast, would that mean that you have a wild yeast strain then?
we do have wild yeast strain, yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
I didn't
So
know
every So yeah, we've had that wild yeast strain in the fam since 1933 and have used it since day one at Beam Distilling.
that.
We are so passionate about that yeast strain that when we opened the Fred Vino distillery, which is a little tiny distillery that we have on campus, we built a new $2.5 million home for it, and that room is about the size of my dining room here, like 30 by 30, 20. Well, it's a little bit bigger. It's like 30 by 30 room. And that room has a small tank to propagate yeast. It has a bunch of lab tables, and that's it. It has a giant refrigerator in one side where some of that yeast lives. And we've got 3 sites where we keep our yeast. We have some at the Beam home. We have most of it at the distillery that gets propagated. And we have one in a warehouse in Louisville. Just in case anything were to happen to any of the yeast strains, we have at least 2 backups of it. Without it, we would lose the identity of our whiskeys, and that's kind of a great segue into tasting this first whiskey, which is the Beam uh, pin bottle.
I mean, we've all already
So
drank a lot.
You haven't seen this before, so what's the
So Beam pin bottle, yeah. Yeah, feel free, Edwin. You want to tell us about the Beam pin bottle, and then I'll add on to it.
yeah, of course, of course. It's funny because I went in and dug through our company files for the distiller notes for the for the bottling line and production line notes. Like I actually have pictures of the original of the patents, the repatents for this bottle. I can't show them to you, but I referenced them and like had to double check my information. But from 1955 through essentially 1992, Beam essentially made like 3,000 different decanters, ranging from animals to famous people to political things to sports. And it was really a way for us to, honestly, it was really a way for Beam to create hype and to get rid of a lot of whiskey that people weren't buying. So that's why you see a lot of those old whiskeys that say 100 months or 150 months or
Looks something like this.
exactly.
I got a
They look
bottle
something
like
like that.
So
That's a decanter.
that's a decanter. There's whiskey in there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Someday I get my grandpa's Model A, so I bought it for that.
And so at a certain point, the demand became so high for the collector decanters that we ended up buying a China company called Regal China in 55 to keep up with the demand of producing. So we had our own China factory to produce these decanters for us. And so we were just cranking them out to the extent where we don't actually know how many we produce. We think 3,000 because that's what people have. Other people who are very passionate about the decanters have told us, but we're not 100% sure that we have all of them because we never kept track of what we were producing. It's maybe somewhere in Royal China there's records, but at the distillery people ask for it all the time. Oh, I've got this like cat this I was there for this conversation. They had this cat decanter, and Fred's like, I wish I could tell you more about it. I honestly, we made so many that I don't know anything about it. But again, this was in a time during during the 50s into the 70s and 80s where people weren't drinking a lot of whiskey, and so you see that we needed to create demand, and that was kind of our way that we created demand. And so this 8-pin bottle was uh, one of Beam's and one of Booker's like favorite things to gift people. Um, so the original decanter bottle had 8-year whiskey in it, just like this. That same mash bill, that 78 mash bill, and the only difference between this vintage, this new bottling, yours is one of the new bottlings, right? From the
Yeah, it
distillery.
is. Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, same. Mm.
Did it come out?
So they've had
So
multiple iterations of this over the years, but
we have.
this one was from last year. So
Right. This was to commemorate our 230th anniversary. So we might put another one out this year. That might be available like outside of the distillery, but that's still kind of in the works right now. But these were distillery only releases as people to kind of like it was distillery only because number one, it was really difficult to source the glass and to have it made for us. And there were a lot of like things that we weren't sure if we were going to be able to get approved, like this label here for some reason in the files and the PowerPoints that I'm looking at, like caused a lot of problems. And also the plastic neck, the material for this was kind of finicky for us to source. It kept cracking on the sides. So they went through like I think like 4 or 5 iterations that I see to make sure that this neck wasn't split. And so the original bottle had a little pour spout at the very top where you would unscrew it and then you would remove the little thing and it had a little spigot so you could pour it and use it as as like a proper decanter. And this one didn't because of just like the cost that was associated with it and also just the mechanics of it. We would have had to get like a whole different set of approvals for it for the whiskey to go from here to there. It was a whole situation.
Yeah.
Uh,
Edwin,
so
Edwin, there's a question.
Yeah.
Edwin, can you hear me?
Mhm.
Oh, so I was curious with all the earlier decanters and stuff, how many of them or when did you have to worry about the whole leaded ceramic thing and when was it safe by? Do you know? Have you looked into it?
we're not 100% sure. Yeah, we recommend that people don't drink them, although we drink them ourselves whenever we find one. Um, it wasn't something that was give the ceramic itself isn't going to be leaded, but of course the some of the paints might have been. Um, but it would require us to go back and like look at the 3,000 decanters that we made and test every single one of them to find out which ones have lead or not, I guess. But there's no real, like I said, we hardly even have any records of how many decanters we made. So I don't think we even retouched the whole leaded uh, liquid issue.
Someone did send me a study like a year and a half, 2 years ago, maybe, that they tested like 20 different decanters and the lead was like almost untraceable. So there was like no concern about the ones that were tested. I usually don't drink from them, but I've definitely had a few and then drink from them. So, it is what it is, right? So,
Yeah,
feel
but I
free.
think about it all the time too. I think
Yeah.
about that all the time too. I'm like, well, we're gonna open a vintage bottle. I guess it's painted all over. I guess I'll
Yeah.
try it. And then once the hype kind of hits and everyone forgets about the whole lead thing, anyways.
Yeah. And then I want to say this bottle, when I used to see these, the old ones, I loved them. I just thought they were so cool. So when you guys came out with this, I had to get this. I don't remember what you were selling for at the distillery. Cost to us was 115 shipped. I had to pay with another bill from someone I bought it from, but whatever. It's all good.
Boo. Yeah, they were selling for 99 at the distillery.
Oh, well, at least they didn't
I think
overcharge me.
Yeah, I think 99. I'm pretty sure. I have a receipt somewhere for
Yeah.
what I paid. I think I might have paid almost the same amount in shipping for these to make
Yeah.
sure that they were properly shipped at the distillery.
Oh,
That-
nice.
yeah. Yeah. But hey, cool. A little piece of history. Right. And so what we're going to do is I think we're going to, in the next couple of years, we're going to revive. It looks like we might revive some of these old decanters that were iconic. But you didn't hear that from me. That's just whispers of things that I hear in the ether. And again, we're going through a moment right now where we are currently sitting on 3.4 million barrels at Beam of whiskey. That's across all of our brands. So we're definitely not lacking any whiskey at the current moment. So I think it's a good move, and I think that it'll definitely like add value and like tap into a little of that nostalgia. But this is
The
just
collectors, will love it for sure.
oh for real. Like I was super hyped when this came out.
Yeah.
86.8 proof, a little bit over 8 years. Classic flavor, classic bean flavor profile, right? Vanilla caramel in the middle, nuttiness. I mean, vanilla caramel at the beginning, nuttiness in the middle, and then like delicious, kind of like woody and like citrusy, like candy citrus notes on the back end.
What did everyone think about this? I'd love to hear what you guys thought. Everyone here, or if you're online, feel free to chime in.
Classic bean.
Yeah.
Classic, nice.
They're very unique. I didn't taste this.
Hmm.
It's kind of like peanut brittle. Like
like, I know, yeah, but it's like brittle, like, cause you get
Mhm.
sugar. I don't know. To me, that's what I get.
It's fair. It's a fun one. It kind of has a little bit of like funk on it for me, especially on the back end, which I like. I thought it's really nice. I'd love to see it at a higher proof because kind of a proof for that's my fault. That's not anyone else's fault. But I still love this bottle and I'd pay for it again. So
Do you get the peanuts
Yeah.
on the nose or on the palate?
Palate.
Palate, yeah.
yeah.
We also, so the proof was on purpose. I mean, the original 8-pin bottles were 86, 84, 84.6.
Yeah, no, totally.
Or 80, 86.8, whatever. So we were just like being as historically accurate as possible.
Totally fair.
But I agree. I want to see like some 100-month,
Bring it
100
up.
proof.
Well, don't worry, we're jumping up
Okay.
in proof here real quick.
Yeah. We sure are. So I'll kind of blaze through the rest of history and then we'll kind of like keep tasting since we still have plenty to do here. So I know I talked about Jim Beam already, and Jim Beam was definitely like the Renaissance era for beam distilling. And then we get into T. Jeremiah, and Jera was Jim Beam's son, and he really helped guide the company through that Prohibition era and through the 2 world wars. And he, in my opinion, became like we always say that Booker was our very first international ambassador, but I would even go back and say that Jera had such a big influence in that because he made overseas trips to bring bourbon abroad and to really grow the name of American whiskey and of bourbon across Europe and into Asia, and really establish a lot of the current relationships that we have with a lot of folks overseas as well. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be the #1 selling bourbon in the world. And since T. Jeremiah didn't have any children, well, this is where you start seeing that difference and that separation of the beams and the nose. Since T. Jeremiah didn't have any children, essentially the next in line, his nephew Booker, was next in line to become the master distiller at Beam. And fun little side story: when he was 18 years old, 17 years old, he tried to run away from home and join the Air Force. And the recruiters called his mom and said, "Hey, your son's wants to sign up for the Air Force. He doesn't have any government ID on him. Would you mind sending over his birth certificate so he can finish his sign up?" Well, his mom said no, brought him back home, and put him to work at his uncle's lumber mill. And so, if y'all have ever seen the Lumberyard Badge, that's kind of a little story that goes into that, into the Booker's Lumberyard Badge. But at the lumberyard, he essentially found discipline in anything that he did, and so everyone saw potential. And so at that point, Jera invited Booker to come work for him at the distillery. And at the beginning, he was a night watchman. He worked the bottling line and really honed into that discipline and that curiosity that Booker was known for. Eventually becoming assistant distiller, essentially being T. Jera's right-hand man until he became the master distiller. And it was kind of this transition and this like fostering of creativity that really inspired Booker to create what we now know as a small batch bourbon collection. So he was a tinkerer and a tweaker, and not that kind of tweaker. He essentially liked to mess with the equipment, and so it was really important for him to
Not
Well,
an LA
you're right.
tweaker?
And he would essentially mess with all sorts of things at the distillery. Like he would connect things to things that just weren't supposed to go. Like he had this like insatiable appetite for tinkering and to find that sweet spot, whether it was in a rack house or in at the still. And that, again, that was kind of what led into that small batch bourbon collection. And that was a legacy that was passed down to Fred, who's Frederick Booker No the third, and into Freddie No, who's Frederick Booker No the fourth. And now there is a Frederick Booker No the fifth. Although, fun fact, he is not the next in line to become master distiller. Freddie's daughter is next in line to become the next master distiller. And she's 12 years old right now. And yeah. Give her a couple decades and she'll be next. And he's really excited about that. He's like, I want her to be the very first master distiller with me at Beam.
She's so
That's cool.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. It's great seeing that. And perfect. That kind of brings us back to the modern era, back to reality, back to talking about what our current home is, which is in Claremont, Kentucky. We're DSP KY 230. That was the DSP um, for us after Prohibition. And you'll see that we have three current production sites. We have Claremont, which is currently shut down for the year. The news of our demise are greatly exaggerated. Claremont accounts for about 30% of our production. Boston accounts for, and then Boston, Kentucky really accounts for most of it, most of the other production. Um, so in Claremont, we distill the small batch bourbon collection. Basil Hayden, Booker's, Baker's, Knob Creek, Little Book, everything else that comes out. And then in Boston, we distill primarily 90% of the time we're distilling just Jim Beam distillate, except for the times that we're shut down. And so Jim Beam distillate is being produced in Boston, Kentucky almost continuously. Those stills are enormous. They're about 2 to 3 times the size. We just installed another still. I don't have the current dimensions of the new dimensions of it, but the old still was, I think, 3 times the size of our still in Claremont. Perfect recreation of it. And then you see the other Boston area that says bottling and warehousing. That should have been Frankfort, Kentucky. And so we also own the Old Grandad Distillery. And the Old Grandad Distillery is, of course, non-operational, but we use it as our warehouse and as our bottling line. And it's beautiful walking in there and looking at the contrast of technology, current modern technology in an old historic building. Just super cool place to geek out.
Is Old
And that's what
Granddad
he's
cheap?
Yeah. It sure is. Old Grandad, Old Overholt, and Old Tub.
Like, I didn't know that. I know, FYI, it's not in our tasting today, but this won our rye tasting in January, and this is fucking phenomenal. I love this shit. This is so
Is that the
good.
12? Is that the 12 year?
This is the 10 from a couple years ago.
The 10. Ooh.
The 10.
I'll have to say. I'll have to
I've
send
heard
you a
really
sample
good
of the
things
12
about
year.
the 12 too, but I
I'll
love
send
that.
you a sample. Yeah. All right. Well, let's continue on and talk about a little bit of about this next whiskey now that we've kind of like brought ourselves back to reality. Knob Creek Single Barrel Green Farms.
Oh,
Pick.
no, we're on Baker's.
No. Bakers. I'm sorry. Bakers.
13 single barrel, which I'm really liking already. So,
do you have the bottle that you that you used?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, not a candy for a quick sec. Everybody here knows we're ordering food from Halal Guys, right?
Yeah.
Is anyone who wants food on my DoorDash cart and place your order?
I'm good.
You're good?
I don't think I got the card.
You want it?
Yeah.
Okay, what do we do?
Oh, I don't think I sent it to you guys. If you want to order Halal Guys, you're welcome to. Mediterranean food. Anyways, Baker's 13. Here we go. This is actually
Baker's
the first time
13.
I've ever had Baker's. So I was pumped to get into this, and we're trying the high rye bourbon later today too. So
Yeah, we sure are. Baker's is, again, part of the small batch bourbon collection. That's one of my favorite things that we make at the distillery. Do you happen to have that serial number that's on the neck of that, and on the little like neck piece on it?
Yes. Yeah.
And if you do, can you read it to me?
yeah, it's 000141278.
Did you win the lottery?
Well, lifetime supply.
Oh, we
I
did.
mean, I kind of have a lifetime supply of bottles, but
So a couple of years ago, I believe in 2019, Baker's we transitioned Baker's into a single barrel. And the story of Baker's is very interesting. Baker's was essentially a love letter from Booker No to his cousin and his best friend and his right-hand man, Baker Beam. Baker Beam lives in Chippewa, about like 10 minutes away from the distillery. And he just had I think his 83rd birthday. And he likes to come hang out at the distillery, and his life is a distillery. There's one story that when they were young, they went on a business trip to New York, and Baker hated it so much that he left the next morning, and he left Booker in New York City because he's like, I don't want to ever leave Kentucky again. If you leave me here, you go on all the trips that you want to go. I'd never want to leave Kentucky ever again. And so if you ever get a chance to see him at the distillery, he'll be like sitting in some couches with his girlfriend, Miss Mary, and he'll like regale you with tales of the most random things that you could possibly imagine.
Sorry.
Now, as I was mentioning, it's kind of a love letter to Baker because Baker was such an important piece of the puzzle to making and to fostering Booker's creativity. And so we made the decision a couple of years ago with Baker to transition it into a single barrel because we thought it was the right brand for it and the right liquid for it. But it sits at 107 proof typically and 7 years because those were the proofs that Baker Beam enjoyed most. That's where he liked his whiskey. He liked his whiskey from high floors and at 107 proof. And when asked what if he had one other choice of another whiskey age statement to release, what age would it be? He said 13 years, which is why we came up with the with Baker's 13 year. But the iconic thing about Baker's is that it is mainly sitting from those higher floors, either anywhere from floor 5 above to floor 7 to 9, depending on what warehouse we're pulling barrels from. And so I asked for that serial number because we can actually look up the information where that particular bottle that we poured that we're all drinking came from.
Is and so higher up, you guys don't have climate control in your right?
We don't have climate control. No, we have three single story rack houses. We have a couple of 5 stories. Almost all of them are 7 stories, and we have a couple of 9 stories as well. I would say the bulk of our warehouses are either 7 or 9. And all the 9 stories are essentially on their way out. They're tilting a little too much. So they're being torn down, unfortunately, sadly.
Gotcha.
Let's taste. Oh, and the Bakers, the story of Baker, the story of the name Bakers is super fun. Baker Beam, essentially, one thing that Booker learned is that in order to name a whiskey after somebody who's living, you have to buy the rights to their name. And when he was going to surprise Baker with essentially as a gift, he was going to say, "Hey, I named a whiskey after you. Here's the first bottle with your name on it. This is my thank you to you for your decades and decades of dedication to me and to our business." But he couldn't do that, so he had to ask Baker, "Hey, how much do you want? What money can I give you? Tell me a number. I'll write you a check, and we'll sign the paperwork to get this." It was going to be a present, but alas, lo and behold, we can't. And Baker Beam essentially said, "You know what? I don't want any of your money. I want you to give me $1 for it, and I'll sell the rights to my name. And if you ever go to Baker Beam's house, if you go down to his basement, he has his old Harley there. He has some motorcycle parts. He's got some old memorabilia, and in a corner of the room by his little mini bar, he's got that dollar framed and signed by Booker. That $1 that he signed away, that he signed the rights to his name away. And the only thing he wanted was unlimited whiskey. He's like, just keep sending me bottles until the day I die, and I'm a happy man.
Hey, I would sign my name away for that. At this point, it costs me a lot of money to buy whiskey. So,
so let's see what I can find about this specific bottle that we're drinking right now.
yeah, what's the deal? This has a way bigger cherry note on it than I was expecting.
Yeah, so the main you hit that nail right on the head, where the identifying characteristic, like I like to describe Baker's as cherry cola. And it's that extra extraction that you're getting from those higher floors that they're getting.
Yeah.
So the warehouse should be on the neck of it, but this was a 9-story warehouse that this barrel came from. So this barrel was aged on floor 8, rack 16. So if we're thinking about a rick house, we're thinking about it. If we're looking at it straight. 8 stories out of a 9-story warehouse on the right hand side towards the center. So it's still a center cut, but from a high floor. Filled in 2011. So we RFID tag all of our barrels, and we've essentially created systems for ourselves to keep track of these barrels, and so these RFID tags essentially allow us to pull all this information for everything and just modernize our systems. But we can also learn a lot.
I love this after it opened up. I didn't love it right after I poured it, but once it had some time in the glass, really nice.
It'll open up. Yeah.
So the hottest day that this barrel ever endured was 105 degrees with 100% humidity.
105 ain't so bad. 100% humidity is no good. Yeah, my body
Right.
Raised.
Imagine what kind of sauna environment what that must have felt like on
Yeah,
one of those high
pulling
floors.
that barrel must have been awful on that day.
The coldest day that this barrel ever experienced was -5 degrees and 9% humidity.
It gets that cold in Kentucky?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Kentucky gets real cold.
Kentucky. I know it's not maybe go -5. We're not talking Celsius here.
It's over 13 years.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so this is a really interesting kind of like thought experiment because when it's hot, like all the whiskey is kind of like going into the barrels, right? It's like the barrels are essentially sucking that liquid into it. Whereas when things cool down that much, you're essentially letting those barrels breathe, and all that whiskey essentially like escapes, taking all that flavor with it. So just a super interesting contrast of like a constant ebb and flow of weather and temperature.
Yeah.
Well, that low humidity is going to lose more water than booze, right? Preferentially.
At a lower humidity. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the lower, yeah.
What do you guys go into the cask at?
For bakers,
16.5?
for bakers, we are going into the cask at 125.
62.
I had to pull up my math.
Damn, I'm good.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm drinking way too
It's-
much fucking whiskey if I
By
do
the
that.
way, go back and taste the first one if you still have it, and the peanuts come out way more now. After you try as a baker.
I mean, I do have it. The rest of you don't.
We'll just have to.
All right.
So super interesting here because that Jim Beam was distilled. What went into was distilled to 135, and then the barrel entry for Jim Beam is 125, and so now we're for bakers specifically for bakers and bookers, we're distilling to 125 and barreling at 125, so we're not bringing it down. And so again, you're creating like flavor variety, right? Instead of like bringing it down to like 10 proof with water, we're essentially distilling the proof and barreling at the proof that we're distilling that high line at. I can actually show you.
So, Edwin,
One
did
second.
you guys ever mess with different yeasts? What do you say you went away?
You stepped out.
We do.
Yeah,
We do.
tell us a bit about it because, like, you got the wild original yeast strain, you got it in 3 different spots, but like, what have you done and why with different yeast? I mean, testing varietals,
Yeah, that's a great question. I was looking for my high one. That's somewhere around here. So super interesting. We actually use 2 different yeast strains. We have for anything that has essentially like our iconic things for Jim Beam, Knob Creek, Bookers, and Bakers. We're using our iconic yeast strain. And for our bourbons, we're using that like 7813.9. But the only thing that doesn't share the yeast is Old Grandad and Basil Hayden. So we have a specific yeast strain for Basil Hayden that we inherited from American distillers. And so Basil Hayden will be the only thing in our portfolio that we doesn't share our classic yeast strain. And again, we're trying to create, and again, we're like wildly varying. We're not using that classic traditional mash bill where that we would use for everything else. We're going with our high rye mash bill, which is like a 67-23-10 mash bill. And so the nuttiness just works very differently with that yeast strain. So we're trying to create like a softer flavor palette, a more floral flavor palette, and our current yeast strain doesn't allow for those flavors to kind of shine through. And that was a decision that was made decades and decades ago to not use Basil Hayden for Basil Hayden to have its own unique yeast strain, because it was essentially a way for us to pay homage to Meredith Basil Hayden, who is Old Grandad.
Is this why I don't love Basil Hayden?
Yeah, it absolutely. It's the one, and that's totally fine. It's the one thing that we have that doesn't share that mash bill. But here's the fun thing about the difference between OGD and Basil Hayden. Old Grandad is distilled to 135, and then barreled at 125, whereas Basil Hayden is distilled to 117 proof and it enters the barrel at 115. So
It
wild
entered the barrel at
variation
115.
Or barely.
at
That is
115.
so low.
It's very, very, very low. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of anyone entering that low normally.
Victor's 110.
Are they?
The Makers is 110.
Wow.
So Edwin, do you
That's
guys is everything sour mash or is there anything that's sweet mash?
No, everything at Beam is going to be sour mash.
Oh,
Yeah, we're going to take a little bit of that previous and continue to recycle. Yeah, that's the one
Ever
thing we
tried
won't mess with.
playing with sweet mash at all?
I've been on Bruce.
I'll have to talk to Freddie next time that I'm in Kentucky and see if he's messing around with anything in like a tiny little production runs. But the level of sanitation that requires, so you'd have to like you're essentially having to power wash everything and like clear everything out. So I don't think that they've actually done anything quite yet, but I wouldn't put it off the table. I wouldn't like take that off the table because Freddie has been messing around with a lot of random things these days that are pretty cool that he's working on. So I'll chat with him next time I'm there and give you all an update on it.
Listen, if Bardstown just came out with a Garyana cast, which I never thought I'd see in bourbon, there's got to be a lot of experimentation going on in Kentucky right now. So,
Hey, look, our Booker's Reserve releases, I think, like speak for themselves and what we're doing with whiskey. And this year's is going to be you've probably all seen the label that came out for the Booker's Reserve 2026.
I haven't yet. No.
When we get to the reserve, I'll chat about it.
Got it.
Because I'll chat more about what we're experimenting with.
Got it. Before we move on to KC21, what everyone think about Baker's? Enjoy it. Overall, seems to be a winner. Mel, you still there?
Oh, we're here and liked it a lot, so that makes it perfect.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, Edwin, I'm very excited to report that there was a few people when we were putting this. I told them what the lineup was going to be. They were like, I'm just not a Baker's fan. I don't like it. I was like, I've never had Baker's, so I can't speak to it. So I'm very excited to go back to them and tell them you're a fucking idiot. Because it's really good.
Baker?
I'm a convert. I did not like Baker's. I've had several. I am a convert tonight. I really like this one.
But they are single barrel, so it might be the single barrel nature. So some you're gonna like, some you might not. There's also that potential, right? So
This one did not.
Yeah, there's like slight variation, but you're always going to find that really, specifically with the 7-year, you're always going to find that really like interesting cherry. The 13-year just has a little bit more depth, has a little bit more of like that leather, earthy characteristic to it. And that's kind of the consistent things. The consistent things that they're always looking for Baker's barrels is that cherry note and that kind of like woody finish at the back end, which is the flavor
good
profile
to
of
know
Baker.
my palate's not broken. I'm grateful.
No, you were spot on, man. You were so spot on. Another fun story. Do you want to know how Baker likes to drink his whiskey?
With Coke?
Does anyone want to take a guess?
Diluted to 20%.
Tall glass of ice.
Yeah.
Got halfway full of Baker's,
Uh-huh.
and then Pepsi. He's a Pepsi man.
Pepsi?
Oh, see, I was close.
Pepsi or Dr. Pepper, one of the two.
I was about to say Dr. Pepper, and then I switched to Coke.
Seriously?
I really was.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Jim Beam had
How funny.
cans years ago.
Yeah.
You're old, you might know.
How interesting. We're gonna switch up to Knob Creek now. We're gonna do the 21 first, and then we have a single barrel. If you guys want to pour them side by side, you can. But I will say this was one of my. So the reason why we have Knob Creek 21 and the Booker's 2024 Reserve, which I both had last year, which this might have been a release last year. 2024, obviously 2 years ago, but they were two of my favorite whiskeys that I had last year. So I was like, I have to have these in the lineup. And I'm going to do these side by side at some point tonight and probably tomorrow because I want to know which one I like more. But I'm very excited for this. So let's get into it.
Years old with bourbon's always iffy just because you worry about it.
This was delicious. I love this.
Too much water, and it's
Way more tasty than the 21 I have at home.
this 21.
Well, I don't know. Is there more than 121?
I was afraid of the same thing when we started bumping up the age statements. So Knob Creek was always kind of a way for us to showcase the like age statement expressions at the distillery. And so when we were thinking about how to continue the evolution of Knob Creek and like holding on to that idea of pre-prohibition style whiskey that was big and bold and uncut, like and unfiltered, and that had that big oily flavor to it. Um, we or Fred and Freddie, I say we, but Fred and Freddie essentially decided to use Knob Creek as that vehicle for us to tell the story of, hey, we traditionally haven't cared or given a shit about age statements, but everybody cares about them, and so we can't ignore that fact. So let's use Knob Creek essentially as a way for us to showcase. And the reason for that is because if you talk to almost everybody at the distillery, they'll tell you that if you are gonna focus in on what makes Jim Beam and that Jim Beam mash bill at 78 13 9 iconic, you're going to find it in Knob Creek more than anything else that we make. And so that nuttiness is going to shine through, those vanilla and caramels, that citrus and oakiness at the back end. That's all going to like just explode. The cool thing about the age statements is that different things get highlighted in different places. I remember when our very first age statement release Beyond the 9 year came out, which was a Knob Creek 12 year. Dude, it was like a tropical fruit bomb to me. All the bright, fresh like stone fruit and tropical fruits and pineapple notes kind of came through. And then as we released the 15 year into the 18 year, I got a lot of acidity in the back notes. I got a lot of like really interesting like punchy flavors that kind of like hit the back of your throat. And I really enjoy the 15. And maybe I wasn't like the biggest fan of our 18 year. But when I tried the 21 year, I was like, oh, cool. It just needed a couple more years of building. Honestly, the 18 year for some reason had too much acidity for me. It made me salivate like crazy, which I do enjoy, but that was it. It just kind of like ended there. And so my fear was that this one was going to be a continuation of that and heading too much into the oaky notes. But
There's like no
really
tannic, no
build.
oak. It's crazy.
I get some tannic, but it's light.
It's super light.
It's light.
Compared to the prior pour.
Yeah. Fair.
Compared to anything 20+ year age in the bourbon world, this is insane.
This was done very well. And I will say, fun fact for me, when I first started getting into bourbon, 2016, 2017, what really one of the things that really got me into bourbon was the Knob Creek single casks. So like I kind of fell in love with Knob Creeks.
Them and the Elijah Craigs.
There's actually a Mexican shop down the street, Mexican liquor store. They accidentally got shipped single barrels instead of the normal Knob Creek. So they were selling them for the normal.
How many did you buy?
No way.
So I bought one.
Yeah.
And then I had it and I was like, holy fuck, this is good. Me and my neighbor here, this was 2017 right after I bought. Me and him crushed it. And then I went back and bought the whole shelf.
In that time frame, you were getting 14, 15-year-old single barrels, Knob Creek, for like $50.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I think they were like 35, 36 is what I was paying. It was Killarney's Huntington Beach pick that they never got because we delivered to that store.
Oh shit! Seriously,
Yeah.
that's funny.
It's not a few.
Yeah, Knob 15 like store single barrel picks used to be like my Christmas bottle every year. I would go in and you'd find one for $54.99 that was at like 120 proof. That was a store pick, and they were the best bottle of the year.
Yeah. Matt, what's going on? I owe you a couple samples because I shorted you, so
No worries.
I'll get it out to you.
Yeah, some of those, you're right, Matt. Some of those really cool single barrels like that were like store picks were just incredibly delicious and phenomenal. There was this one group called Longhorn. I don't know if y'all ever, they're like central US that just ordered dozens and dozens of these barrels, and the Longhorn barrels apparently, like I guess they went out of business, and so they were just floating around. There was a ton of like Longhorn single barrel whiskey that was like 12 to 15 years old. I was floating around for a good while. So you go to the East Coast and then you'll see it kind of like in the most random places, like somebody like, oh, look at my single, like my 15-year-old Longhorn single barrel. So those are the unicorns now.
So can I say,
but
having tasted both the knobs, I think the Baker's is better than both of them so far.
Controversial. I like it.
Andy agrees with me.
I agree.
Yeah, but Andy's got you guys got fucking glasses on you.
Nerds are right.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Edwin's got fucking glasses on.
Automatically.
Look, I try not to be biased because Baker's is my favorite whiskey that we make.
Yeah, there you go.
But
See?
I do.
Everyone knows what's up. Everyone knows what's up.
I will say it's kind of interesting. I did add a little bit of water, which I never add water, and I don't know why I added it to a 50%er, but the tannic goes away completely, opens up the chocolate notes in this for me. I just think this is a really I just think how well this is done for a 21 year, not being over oaked, like at all. Like I don't if you told me this was 10 years, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. I just think it's a really well done whiskey. So
I mean, but here's the thing: if you drink it blind,
like
if you drink it blind, here's the problem with it. I would say that I don't know that you would know it's a 21-year-old whiskey.
No shot.
So just
And I
be
think-
completely like, based, and it's just like, okay, so it's not like blowing me away in any way other than the fact that it's old.
I don't know. I like it.
Palate wise.
I think it's just well balanced.
It is.
There's nothing that overtakes any one part.
Yeah.
So where I say on the Bakers, I mean, I really like the Bakers. That's
But here's the thing: what are we going to pay for this? Because it's 21.
Well, this was what 180, 200. I don't know. Let's see what I paid for it. Actually, I think it was closer to 250. Yeah, I paid 250 for this. So
That's all I'm saying. When you
I mean, the Bakers 165 is what I paid to get it here. I accidentally bought the Bakers. I had it shipped here. I should have bought it here. But,
Once you add the age in, then that becomes a factor. That's the only.
Barrels and things.
And it was the reason for going at 50% is because you wanted to spread this, or because you thought it was the best expression at 50%, or
I think a lot of the time we try to stay true to the DNA of our brand. So Knob Creek has classically set at 100 proof for like the baseline selections.
That's true.
So it was just a consistency issue where we wanted to keep it consistent
Yeah,
across the 9, the 12, the 15, the 18, and the 21.
You're right. I always thinking of your single barrels that are what 120, so that's why. But
Right.
right.
And like that's which is a great segue into talking about single barrel, because we are tasting. Do you know when this single barrel selection happened?
So yeah, where is the single barrel at? Just right here. So I've had this. This was 2020. This is old.
Oh, it's good.
So
God,
this is from, if you guys don't know where Greens Farms is in either Maine or is it Maine or Connecticut? Fuck, I'll have to look it back up.
I think I looked at Connecticut. I think.
Yeah, they're East Coast either way. So I've been sitting on this one for
Westport,
3 years. Where?
Connecticut. Westport.
Yeah, they're in Connecticut. So Greens Farms does a great job. They do some really cool single barrels. They're always, every time I've sourced barrels from them, they're like, "You're in California," and they're like, "How'd you get our bottles?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it." But, so
Still some good pieces.
yeah, it's fine. But
Don't worry about it.
anyway, so they have some really good stuff over the years that I've really liked. So I put this in there. I wanted to put this in here because I knew there's a lot of people from California that were going to join this tasting, and you probably haven't had a lot of stuff from Greens Farms, so you get to taste their palate a little bit. So
what does that mean when you say Greens Farm?
that's the name of the store.
Yeah.
Oh, there's this. So it's a single barrel pick from this. I've never even heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I've heard of plenty of places in Boston, like Julio's and other stuff,
A lot of people. They're popular on the East Coast. They don't travel well because most people haven't seen it out here. What I'm saying. So, but yeah, I have a buddy that goes there a lot, so he buys stuff for me sometimes.
the middle of nowhere, Connecticut, Westport.
Yeah.
You know where Connecticut?
Awesome.
It
As
is.
the East Coaster on here, a lot of the New England store picks tend to be popular up and down the East Coast because Pennsylvania state run, Maryland state run, Virginia state run, Carolina state run. So a lot of times, until recently, the only place you could get a single barrel was out of New England. Now some of the state stores are actually doing picks from places, but it used to be just if it's not a shelfer, you're not going to see it.
Yeah, Matt, where are you at again?
I'm in Virginia.
You're in Virginia. Yeah, that's right.
The control states are a whole nother beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has so much baking spice on it, but 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 then it's sweet and it's nice. I don't know, this is nice.
It's like gingerbread cookies, man. Like, it's so good.
It's a spicy meatball.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that spicy.
It is spicy.
From an ABV standpoint, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Well,
That's good. That's what I mean.
Even it's got like a little ginger hint in the back. Like, dude, it's so good.
I think for the
Whoever selected these barrels is doing a great job.
Nando, the 21 year, I think, is unusual in the sense that a lot of the really old bourbons tend to kind of, gotten old and lost something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, but I personally like the Greens Farm a little bit better.
That's fair. Because Greens Farm's just pretty damn good. So
Yeah.
I'm not bummed about it.
Well, delicious.
Farm has more going on.
Yeah, that's true. It's also, it's 10% ABV higher, right? So you're expecting it to be, that's also been the cool thing about the Knob Creek picks over the years is that they're coming in at 120.
120, yeah.
Right? So like for those that want a little more proof over the 50%, or sorry, I guess over the 100 proof, it's really nice. This is very good though.
Making spices dominate the nutty notes. I tend to lean that way.
You taste the nutty notes at all?
The note and the entry palette into this is like phenomenal. This is
Yeah.
a delicious pick.
Let's see what happens.
So someone here says that they get a marijuana note on the nose.
Okay.
I guess
There we go. I got a little like. I think
it's a little dank.
Grass.
I don't know what marijuana smells like, so
I smoked it up.
Fucking lying.
I mean, comparing them side by side, I mean, the single barrel just upside to me blows the 21 year just. Yeah.
Actually, with some water, the single barrel really actually is still got like the flavor.
A tiny bit of water is like.
Yeah, I had more than tiny bit, and what it helps.
And it was like on the single barrel. Or
is that your poke finger? Is that your poke finger? Because otherwise,
fingernail.
I was gonna say I don't have enough fingernail to add that much water.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the water takes away from what it does really well.
It helps control.
It balances it.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like the pop of that baking spice in that one. I think it mutes too much with water.
Takes away from that though.
The 21 or the single barrel?
It's a single barrel. Here's what I'll say. Here's one man's opinion. Whatever that's.
No one cares. The consensus.
You're not.
We know this is 21 years, so we can't ignore that fact, right? I think this is so well balanced, and I honestly at $250, I think it's a great price for a 21 year. I mean, who else is putting out a 21 year for $250? I would take this. I like this. I think I would take this over the single barrel, in my opinion, all things considered, that this is how hard it has to be being at 21 years to put this in there. Now, if you're saying, what is my normal palate going to ask for? It's the 60%. I really like this pick. Really good. But all things considered, I'm taking the 21 over it as a whiskey. Yes.
I just, I've been fortunate to have some of the 20 and 25 year Pappy, and I think they get tired, frankly. The 15 year is better.
Oh, for sure.
15 lot B and the 12-year lot B and the 15-year initial Pappy, I think, stand up a little bit more. I'll say I just had one of the older Elijah Craig, was it the 21 and the 23, the like limited releases of those, and when I'm stacking in my head this 21 up against those, it's better than both of those releases that I had recently. Like, so at least from memory, it was like 3 weeks ago, but
no, that's fair.
Fred likes to say this thing. I was just at this like 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about age date and some things. And he's like, well, some people just want to age things for age's sake. But old whiskey is just old whiskey sometimes. And, it's like, did you age gracefully or did you not? Are you, are you full of wrinkles or did you age gracefully?
Here's
All right, let's
aging graceful.
take one quick 1 minute break and confirm orders and put the order in for food.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break for Bino, apparently, but
To order the food, not for me. All right, so
feel free to pour. We're going to move on to the little book, though, so feel free to pour that real quick.
Does the hummus?
Nando, fun fact about the
Yes,
Knob Creek releases.
I'm all good. Yeah, we're good.
Distill to 130 and then barrel entry at 125 on these.
Is that the regular pattern? Yeah.
So a little bit lower than shipping. Yeah.
You want
also the new single barrels.
Which one did you put the water in?
That's where you guys got 2 sliders?
Yeah, a tiny bit.
And then Mo.
Yeah, yeah, really.
It's not big single barrel though. It's pretty fucking good though.
It's delicious, man. It's so good.
This is all profile.
You got the sandwich?
This is like blind. You're still go with 21.
You'd have to ask me on a different day. Blind, I might go. Here's the funny part. Blind, I might go with a single cask, but
Yeah.
I might.
Because I know the context, like you're saying, like no, it's
It's a context thing for me, 100%. Because you know it's a 21 and how hard it is to do it that well. I just respect how much work must have gone into that to make that right.
The thing is, 21 years ago when this was put into a barrel, I don't think they had any idea that it was gonna be a 21-year-old product.
Fair, 100%.
This is the market. This is guys for the last 5 or 6 years. It's like at the age table, get this, you know. And
You're so
yeah,
right.
I don't think it would have been laid down as. Imagine he was going to do a training casket.
Yeah,
they could have, like, say 5 or 6 years ago, taken it off a high floor and put it down into a single-story brick or something like that.
Well, and then I almost wonder too, because you don't, as you already said, there's no climate control at yours, right? It's because to Bruce's point, if you would have said that we know these are going to go into a 21 blend, maybe at some point these are going to go into a climate controlled facility, right? So that we know we can control the aging a little better, right?
Or hide it in the middle, the middle shelves for a while, tuck it center where it's not as much flux,
So I'm assuming, I'm assuming that some of these have, maybe they hit the high risk points at some point, but they probably got brought down low, especially towards the end of their aging, I would think, right?
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, and we typically don't rotate anything either. Or move anything from its location.
So when they're deciding on some of these special releases, like a 21-year, then is it more just we tasted this profile and we think it's going to keep getting better? So just as they kind of taste and test, they're like, all right, we're just going to keep playing with this one.
Yeah. So that happened. So that decision was made when the 15-year was released. The batches that were released 15-year continually just kept aging gracefully, and so they're like, okay, cool. I think we have something here. Let's save all of these like whiskeys in these particular rake houses for continuous aging. So that 15 became 18, became 21 now. And it was never its original intent to be a 21-year. It just happened because it was good and they figured that it would kind of gain character or change. The character would change over time.
Is the plan to keep the 21 in the lineup?
The 21 is currently in the lineup. Yes. So there's no more 18. There's no more 15. It's going to be 21. And I think we're going to cap out. Not confirmed because I haven't seen the innovation reports for that are coming out in the next couple of years. But
25.
Talking of 25, yes, and that's I think where we're going to cap out. If it continues to age well.
Yeah.
Because if not, it'll just be like, okay, cool, release it at whatever age is like we feel is.
I was gonna say I'm ready for the 25 now. So
yeah. So there is plan for 25, but who knows if we want to make sure that it's a good product regardless.
Well, cheers on the 21. I think it's a really well done product, and I say that as someone who has tasted thousands of older whiskeys. I think it was just really well done. So
thank you.
We're gonna move on to the book. I think we've confirmed everything here. This is chapter 5, the invitation. We're gonna pour around the bottle here for those of us that are pouring out the bottle here.
Why blind tasting?
Nando, did you know that? That single barrels have now gone cask strength for Knob Creek?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Starting this year, all single barrels, rye and bourbon have gone cask strength.
Just rye or rye and bourbon?
No, rye and bourbon. Yes. Yeah. All.
Well, let's talk about doing one.
Yeah. So keep an eye. Let's chat.
That's cool. How's that going to work with it? Are you guys ready for the TTB on that, or you guys gotta?
Yeah, we prepared. We've been preparing for it.
Okay, greasing the wheels over there. Good job.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it was an undertaking, and that's why we didn't do it earlier. But we finally got all our ducks in a row, and we have a barrel manager who's like willing to undertake all that. So we started this year.
I respect that because not that it's your brand, but another brand, big brand, Sazerac, overtook Journeyman and ruined Corsets, Whips, and Whiskey for me because they refused to keep it at cask strength because they wanted it at a to make it easier with the TTB. So, anyways, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I'm excited for that. That's awesome. These little books have been really good. People sleep on these.
They do.
People out there there's naysayers out there. I have this at Pleasant Valley Bourbon Club share, who picked this old Zach. And I love this. So I was happy to put this into our tasting tonight. Edgar, take it from there. Feel free to tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Little Book was kind of in 2012, Little
Give him a 15.
Fred No, 7th generation master distiller, asked Freddie No if he wanted to and if he was ready to take over the family business. And Freddie said, yes, teach me everything that you possibly can about American whiskey and about making whiskey. So again, he kind of took the steps of his grandfather and took roles across the distillery and across all operations. And Freddie in 2012 essentially started discovering. Freddie, by the way, is 34 years old. So how old was he in 2012? We'll do the math. He found that he really enjoyed the philosophy that his grandfather had about blending things together and creating flavor profiles and palettes that were unique. And so he didn't want to just do something that his grandfather did, which was with Booker's take a bunch of cask strength, uncut, unfiltered bourbons and blend them together. He wanted to take that idea and kind of run with it and expand. So what he ended up doing was creating this line of Little Book as kind of a unique yearly release where he would take his favorite blends of whiskey together and blend them in unique and very creative ways. And so over the course of the last 9, this year's going to be the 10th release, we've seen such a wide variety of whiskeys that have been released, such a wide variety of blends that have been released. And this chapter 5 was called The Invitation because it was, in Freddie's own words, it was his invitation for people for him to say, hey, I think I've matured enough that I can showcase the liquids that I've created myself. So this particular blend is a blend of a 2, a 3, a 5, and a 15-year bourbon. 3 of those whiskeys were created and distilled and overseen by Freddie No. And then the 15-year was overseen by his father, by Fred No. And so this was the very first time that instead of pulling just vintage liquids that were sitting around in our rick houses, he had a say in the process from beginning to end, from the grain arriving to the mash bills to the distilling proofs to the aging, and at the same time being true to the identity of what American whiskey is from the Jay-Z Distilling Company with that 15-year-old straight Kentucky bourbon. So at its very base, at its very core, it starts off with a majority of a 2-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon that went in at a low proof. So it went in at the Basil Hayden proof. It went at 115 proof. But it's still just a classic. It's not a high rise or a classic 78-13-9. And so he wanted to create mouthfeel with that. And then he added another layer of whiskey, which is a 100% malted rye whiskey that's 3 years age. And that whiskey was to add a little spice. And then he went in with a 5-year-old straight Kentucky straight bourbon. So again, just I'd probably say that he probably pulled from some of the younger Booker's batches for this. And just to add kind of that vanilla, that caramel, and that complexity. And then he finished it all off with that 15-year-old that was distilled by his dad. And that one came from 9-story rick houses, from a little bit higher than those center cuts, just to add a little bit of that round, chocolatey, malty flavor that he wanted to get out of this specific blend. But this was the first time that he kind of stepped into this role of saying, hey, I am not only a blender at the distillery and kind of being overseen by my dad. I want to make something that's truly uniquely mine. And chapter 5 was kind of the beginning of that, where he himself distilled that rye, he distilled the bourbon, he distilled the high rye bourbon and the classic bourbon, and then just took a little inspiration from dad. So 4 different whiskeys in here, blended together to create Little Book chapter 5.
So if you were to age state this is a 2-year whiskey?
Yeah.
Fucking A, you gotta be
This is really good.
until you said that, I never thought 2-year whiskey, and I looked at it because it's on here, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, I think this is really good. This is crushable at 58.4.
Yeah.
And it's a 2-year. There's 2-year in it. Do you know the percentages or not? No.
Well, yeah,
Not
go to the lowest.
I
You have to go to the
don't
low.
know.
That's
So it's a 2-year whiskey.
well.
Even though there's 15 blended.
Okay, but
Yeah, there's a 2, a 3, a 5, and a 15, but all different mashes and distillation proofs.
okay.
Well, that's even great. I mean, Booker's is normally bottled between 7 and 9 years, right? So,
Correct.
so even the 5 years, young, right?
Mhm.
That's crazy. So I think this is really good. This,
Yeah.
fuck, it might be my favorite of the night right now.
I think everyone we taste becomes your favorite.
No, this is the best so far.
I actually think it's been a really good progression though tonight.
Yeah.
This is the best.
I do like that Baker's a lot, but yeah, you might be right. I mean, it's close. I kind of like it. I kind of like it. Yeah. I do like how there's differentiation between what we've tasted tonight, though, Edwin. And one
Separate.
they're totally separate, and like there's
So Edwin, what do you put that down to? That like
We've had a lot.
other than the old brand and the other stuff, that's a different yeast strain. What causes the differentiation and the separation in the flavor profiles between these whiskeys? That's significant. Like you can taste the difference.
Absolutely, yes. I think number one, great question. The way that Freddie and Fred taught me to kind of like speak on this was they use the word levers. They're pulling different levers at the distillery, and the main levers are going to be number one, the yeast. We already know that's the lowest variable of like change. The mash bill, where you have our traditional, our high rye, our rye, and then our like toasted, our brown rice mash bills that we like to use every once in a while. So mash bill, and then fermentation. Some of the whiskeys that are specifically used for like Booker's or Little Book or Baker's can vary in fermentation time. Usually it's 48 hours, but sometimes you push it to 3 days on fermentation. So fermentation does have a huge effect on flavor.
Yep.
And then the big one though, the two biggest ones would be like distillation proof and barrel entry proof. So I kind of like link those together as one because every single thing from Jim Beam to Knob Creek to Baker's to Basil Hayden has a different distillation proof and a barrel entry proof. And then warehousing, like where are you warehousing each of these things? Are you mainly pulling from the bottom? Are you pulling from the middle? Are you pulling from the top? Which you've already seen with Baker's pulling from the top, Little Bug mainly pulling from the middle, Knob Creek pulling in like a cross X section. So all of those are going to create variation. So once you start compiling all these things, let's say you have the same mash bill, let's say you have the same fermentation and the same yeast, but if you age things in different warehouses, whether it's a 5-story, a 7 or a 9-story, or you change the distillation proof on each thing, like it's all going to create huge variations in that flavor identity. And we've done experiments.
The nice part
with
about
that.
having 3 different distilleries, yeah, so you can experiment a little and do different things there.
Yeah, right. And we ran a couple of experiments with. Have y'all ever had any of the Hardens Creek releases?
Yeah.
So we did that with the Boston, the Frankfurt, and the Claremont, where we distilled the same liquid from the same mash bill with the same yeast strain, with the same barrel entry proof and distillation proof, at the same elevation in 3 different rick houses. In Frankfurt, Boston, and Claremont, and got 3 completely different whiskeys just by
I
changing
didn't know
one
you guys
variable.
did exactly the same.
Everything is the same on those.
Because I very clearly I liked one way more than the other 2 in that experiment. How interesting.
Yeah.
So
And
it
we
was
just
just the aging. It was just the aging of where it was aged. Location.
correct. So that was a location that was different.
And they were labeled, right? Because I feel like I remember liking the one that was Claremont specific. Right?
Yeah, Claremont was the one I
Right.
liked.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
You'll buy it. So.
Yeah, the Frankfurt was really dusty for some reason. I don't understand why it was so dusty.
So wait, don't you guys have information on what the difference? Because if it's just where it was aged, then all you know the difference in variation in temperature and humidity between the agings of all the three barrels. If you kept track of it, right?
I have all the information. Yeah, we have all the information.
You
Correct.
know
Yeah.
what the compiled information says about it was hotter, it was colder, it was more humid, less humid, it more barrel interaction, less barrel interaction. What?
I need to know.
Right. So
You need to know.
Are you AIing our whiskey?
Claremont. Claremont
Altitude.
was aged in a 7-story rick house, right in the center cut.
Mhm.
The Boston was aged in a 7-story rick house right in the middle, but the temperature in those rick houses was almost 25% hotter than the rick houses in Claremont.
So more interaction.
More interaction with the wood.
More interaction with the barrels, with the heat. And then the barrels that were aged in Frankfurt, we don't distill anything in Frankfurt. It's just a warehouse in a bottling line. But since it was the old Granite distillery, all of those rick houses that still live there are mainly storage. But we aged that whiskey in there, and we aged it in temperature controlled brick and mortar rick houses.
Oh, really? Temperature? You have
Yep.
to control it? Okay. So
we don't age anything in those. Like typically, we just use them as storage. So none of our whiskeys are aged there. Was one of the first times we've ever used those temperature controlled brick and mortar rick houses. So the floors are heated.
So this is
have them.
So this is a Goldilocks situation where it's too much on one side, too little on the other side. It's just right in the middle.
Right. So that was the experiment. Claremont should be right in the middle.
Yeah.
Frankfurt should be a little too low, and then Boston should be a little too much. Yeah.
Interesting. Very cool.
Yeah.
I want to try this. Yeah. What is this thing that you?
I'll send them to you.
Okay.
And we have a new release this year. I'm going on tangents right here, where we aged everything in Claremont and just changed to 3 different warehouse styles: a 9-story, a 5-story, and a 1-story.
So what are you seeing with, what have you noticed when you've tasted in terms of like these stories and how much that affects things obviously it's how high it gets, because, a 9-story versus a 3-story, there's going to be a big difference. What do you notice with the higher stories, the higher it gets in a rick house?
Well, the very obvious thing that I'd taste right away is the addition of woody baking spice characteristics, and I think that's purely the effect is coming from the interaction with heat and with those non-temperature controlled rick houses. So that extraction, that the resting of barrels when it's cold, all the whiskey seeping into the wood, to that red line when it's hot. And
you notice that more with the taller ones because there's more heat at the higher ones.
Correct. Yeah. So if we're looking at the lower floors, those floors are typically sitting at around the last time I looked, 63 to 65 degrees on average.
Okay.
And then some of those higher 7 to 9 stories, when you're heading up to those floors, you're living in the 80s and 90s up there. So wild temperature variation. And so when we ran that experiment and aged on a single story palletized, it was super earthy. The whiskey was pretty light, and it was 11 years old, but it was really light and thin and very floral. And then we tasted one that was from a 9-story rick house, close to the very top, and that same whiskey that was 11 years old was super oaky, and it almost tasted but it was fresh and bright at the same time. And it was almost you went to a lumber yard and you cut a piece of wood and then you fucking charred the side of it. And that was kind of the flavor. You still had a lot of the tannins, but you had a lot of
palletize as opposed to normal storage too, or is the majority palletized?
So it was originally a palletized rick house, but we don't use it we don't palletize anything at the distillery at the current moment. And so we didn't actually palletize that whiskey. It was originally built as a palletized warehouse. And fun random fact. Here's a random ass tangent here. Another one. We still own Crucian rum. And for the first couple of years of owning Crucian rum, we would ship in containers of Crucian rum from St. Croix to Beam, so we could use the bottling lines at Beam for that whiskey. And that whiskey would live inside of the palletized warehouses. And we would also do single barrels out of those warehouses as well. So those warehouses were built for Crucian rum.
Interesting.
Did he mention what
Yeah.
the differences between Claremont and Boston?
Do you know what the elevation difference is between Claremont and Boston?
It's only about
Frankfurt?
100 between them.
About the same, or
the actual elevation. I have that information. I don't have it off the top of my head.
I just looked it up. It's about 100, roughly 100 feet higher in Claremont on average.
It's 100 feet higher. We just found out.
Okay.
But
between the Rick House
we're gonna move on to the bookers, and I'm gonna stop recording here real soon. But I think everyone here really liked five. Yeah, did we like Little Book?
We like Little Book, yes.
Okay, everyone like Little Book here. What about online, Matt? Mel?
Yeah, I actually had to run and look at all my Little Book bottles I had in there to remember why this one stood out, and it was because I was so sad on the Little Book 4 because it had the rice whiskey in there, and I'm allergic to rice. So I was like, when this one came out, I like checked the back. I was like, okay, I can actually drink this one, and so I remember it standing out and still good.
Well, you can always send me that bottle if you can't drink it.
Nine is also the same. Older for yourself.
Yeah.
Jason, Mel, what did you guys like that one?
No, very, very nice. Never would have guessed it's a 2-year whiskey.
Yeah, that's crazy. That blew my mind just right now. Actually, I had no idea that this was that there was 2-year stock in this until you said that. So crazy.
Yeah. Just some fun facts there.
So Bookers, I'm gonna harken back to my days of when I was before I was a bourbon drinker, so called. I've always loved Bookers. Bookers was very early on in my bourbon journey. I have my uncle to thank for Bookers, actually. My uncle got me into Bookers. The very first one we had together was Country Ham, which I think was a 2019 release. Yeah, I remember that. Country Ham was phenomenal. Yeah. He had given me a couple of not like regular Bookers before that. And then Country Ham was the first one that I bought, and I brought over for him, and I absolutely love that fucking expression. So I actually have one here. If we were going to do the Bookers only tasting, it was going to be in there. But we'll save that for the next round. I had to get one of the older expressions of Bookers in this tasting lineup. I think they're it's always fun to do the current expressions. I just think there's a lot of nostalgia about the older expressions. So the Shiny Barrel batch is what we're drinking. This is from 2019-02 specifically. And I had not had this until tonight. So I'm excited to drink this.
Is this a lower?
Yeah.
No.
It's the highest.
It's the highest. This is by far the highest proof tonight, FYI.
124 proof. Yeah.
Did you feel that you didn't put it on?
124.
Oh, really?
Okay. 62. And Edwin, I gave you this expression, right? This is one.
The Shiny Barrel, yes. Yeah, I've got the Shiny Barrel. Mm-hmm.
Have you had this before?
I have, yeah. It's just been a long time.
Yeah.
I started with Beam in 2017. So yeah.
Don't worry.
So yeah, I got a chance to try this. This whole lineup, so 2018, 2019 were like such interesting years because we released like high proof stuff that at very low age statements. Because this is only like 6 years. This is like 6.5 years where you start seeing like in 2023 to 2026. Yeah. You start seeing them like bump up in age to like 7 to 8.5 years now. But some of my favorite batches came out in 2019. Kathleen's batch is one of my favorites. Like the Shiny Barrel batch that's 2018. Kathleen's batch, 2019. Like the main thing that I noticed is the main difference between the Bookers that were released in 2019 versus the ones now is that we were pulling from less warehouses. So typically we pulled anywhere from like 4 to 8 different rick houses to create the blend, and this one was only I think 4 different rick houses.
Yeah,
all of them in Claremont.
Starting around 20.
Yeah, Blue Knight, Kentucky Chew, Beaten Biscuits.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a Granny's batch? Was there a Granny's batch?
Yeah, there was a Granny's.
Mm-hmm.
I like that one. Country Ham, I loved. And FYI, if you got the Booker's add-on, good time to side by side with this Kentucky Chew. The Kentucky Chew's phenomenal too. I know that one's phenomenal. So
Probably one of the best.
Yeah, I don't know which one those.
Tommy's batch I really liked. There's so literally I give some of my family batches of these because there's a Teresa's batch without an H. And so my Aunt Teresa who doesn't even drink fucking whiskey.
Yeah.
I gift her that every time I can find it. So
That's awesome. You should make a Benno's batch.
no. It have to be real chocolatey for how dark you are.
Any darker than I'm not more than you.
You are joking.
Yeah,
right
you
now,
are.
bro.
Yeah, you are.
You got left out in the sun. This is perfectly cooked. I think about that.
Perfectly cooked. According to who? Ice?
I swear, yeah, they'll take both of us. And that's where the recording stops.
On that note.
On that note.